Today I wanted to talk about the reasons why I decided to live in Poland. I've been here for about a month now and it's been a really awesome experience. I know you guys have been asking about it for a while. Poland seemed like such a random decision out of the blue, but I promise you that there's a lot of logic behind it. Make sure to stay tuned to the end where I tell you guys the most important reason why I picked Poland. A few years ago when I was living in Colombia, I posted on a Reddit forum called Asian Masculinity. I talked a lot about my experience in Colombia, and there was another guy named Ezra who was living in Poland at the time. So after everything happened to me in Colombia, I was looking for new places to go. After doing Southeast Asia for a bit, I realized that Southeast Asia wasn't for me. I don't think I could ever live there. I'm gonna talk about that in a future video, so keep a lookout for that. I knew that I wanted to explore the Eastern European countries. After doing my research, Poland came out as the #1 option. So the most important thing for me is safety. After living in Colombia, I grew a different tolerance for safety, but I realized when I left Colombia and went to Thailand how important safety is for me, and especially as you get older. I've had a lot of really crazy things happen to me in Colombia, and living with the constant stress of worrying about I might get robbed, I can't be out late at night, I can't be walking around the streets whenever I want. That has a huge effect on your mental health, and I actually have an interesting theory about this. So I think one of the reasons why Colombia specifically is so sexual is because it's so dangerous. And I think on a biological level, if you perceive danger and threat, your body wants to pass on its genes as quickly as possible. Every time I go back to Colombia, there's some weird energy in the air, specifically in like Medellin, where everything is so sexual. There's just like a constant need to always have sex. I don't know if it's true or not, I'm not a scientist, but that's just an observation that I've made. My ex-business partner, he almost got robbed in Armenia and he got held up on the freaking highway in Medellin. They were following him from the mall. I think 2 or 3 guys in motos came on both sides of the car and pointed guns at the driver and my business partner and pointed directly at the bag. So they were watching him. They were expecting that the money was in that bag. It's just crazy stuff, man. Like, people always downplay the safety in Colombia, but it really takes going to somewhere where safety is not that big of an issue to really appreciate it. I'm happy to say that here in Poland, especially Krakow, it's a very safe city. Just generally in most countries around the world, if it's a mostly homogenous population, it's gonna be a lot safer. So I can walk around in the middle of the night, in the middle of the city center, and I don't really have fear that anything's going to happen to me, that anyone's gonna try to steal anything from me. When I go in restaurants, I leave my stuff on the table, my bag on the table, I go to the bathroom. I feel like it's one of the worst stresses that a person can have in their life when they're constantly worried about safety. If you guys want to reach out for a consultation, contact me for whatever reason, feel free to hit me up here. I don't really do any sponsorships on this channel, so if you guys would like to make a contribution to the channel so I can continue to provide really good content for you guys, I would highly appreciate it. And that leads me to my second point, the treatment of Asians here. Surprisingly, here in Poland, every time people see me walking around everywhere, they don't speak English to me first, they always speak Polish to me. And that's because here in Poland, there's a very big Vietnamese community and Chinese community. Something I really appreciate about being Asian as I age. We have a very good reputation everywhere in the world. I'm very happy to report that so far in my experience, that has been true. People don't see Asian people as problems, really, because every time we go to a place, yes, we mainly stay with ourselves, but we never cause any problems, we never steal, we never kill, we never really commit any crime. We open some really awesome restaurants. We hire a bunch of local people to work with us. So especially Chinese people, people's perception of us is that we just come, we do business, we hire a bunch of people, we bring money, and we just don't cause any problems. It's actually very common as well to see a lot of interracial Polish and East Asian couples. Funny enough, here in Krakow, I've actually seen more Asian guys with white girls than the other way around, like we're used to. That was a really surprising change. I would say that in general, there are a ton of Asians everywhere in Europe, especially Chinese people, because, you know, there's so many of us. Here in Poland, I feel quite happy and proud to be Asian, and I think the Poles have accepted us quite well. I first came to Europe when I was 24. Right before I went to Colombia, I did like a European backpack trip where I went to 12 countries in 6 weeks. I knew that I always wanted to experience the European way of life. What's the European way of life? Safe, walkable cities, very accessible public transportation, a nice pub culture where you can just go out, chill with your friends. I think Europe has a very good work-life balance compared to East Asian countries and the US. And I also love interacting with people of all different races and countries. The thing that fascinates me the most about Europe is that the people here are always so cultured. It's because that they live right next to a bunch of different countries. I would say a lot of the Western European countries, so Portugal, Spain, England, France. Those countries don't really speak other languages outside of their own languages, but starting from around like Germany, Netherlands, a lot of Central and Eastern Europe, all of the people in those countries speak like 2 or 3 languages. I think that a lot of Europeans have a certain elegance and culture about them that makes it always very interesting to talk to them, because a lot of them are very well traveled because of the accessibility of travel here in Europe, which is also one of the pros of living in Europe. I feel like the US, we have the material wealth, but because we're separated geographically from everybody else, we never really get to intermingle with other cultures the same way that Europeans or like Asians do. Number 3, you all know that this was coming. After my experience in Latin America, I am a free single man now, so I wanted to try my experience here in Central and Eastern Europe. I heard a lot of really good things about Polish girls. From what I've seen, I think the Ukrainians are still the hottest, but Polish girls are very, very beautiful as well. I hear that they make extremely good girlfriends and they enjoy being with East Asian guys. Coming from the US, it's different now because BTS kind of popularized us, but I remember for a very long time, a lot of women would not date me just because of the fact that I was Asian. And also because I'm only like 5'7" and a half, 5'8". In the US, height matters a lot and being white matters a lot. In Europe and many places in the world, I became a lot more proud to be Asian. I found that a lot of Polish women do find Asians attractive, especially like the East Asian, Korea, Japanese, and Chinese. Maybe I'll get the opportunity to date a Polish girl. We'll see. Once I feel ready to start dating again, you guys know I'm gonna make videos about it and then I'll report about it. I also really liked Poland because of its central location. Specifically, Krakow is literally right in the middle of Europe, which makes it the perfect spot to explore all of Europe. Instead of just doing what I did in Southeast Asia, where I was living out of a suitcase, and every time I would move countries, I would have to take my whole entire life with me. It's nice having a home base somewhere and being able to make weekend trips to other European countries and then come back and then I still have like my home and stability. I also like that Poland is a developing nation. This is something that I learned when I was living in Colombia. I really like living in a nation that's on its way up. I would consider Vietnam in that as well. I think Thailand is also developing. Medellin was a developing city. And the cool thing about that is that, especially as a YouTuber, there's nobody really making videos in Krakow. If I come here and I start making videos about Poland, especially as an Asian guy, I'm gonna stand out a lot. I also like that in developing countries, they're not super woke yet. If you look at like the US or UK or Spain, right? They're so developed that now they're trying to get super progressive when it comes to culture. And I think that's where the US is messing up because our culture is way too progressive for our own good. I just wanted to avoid all that woke stuff. I don't want to go super traditional to a country that's like super third world. And I saw that in like the Philippines or Ukraine, Belarus, Moldova are poorer countries. I think Poland is like a really good balance because it's a lot more developed than you think it is, but it's not quite on the level of like Germany and some of the more powerful European countries, and it's on its way up. So if I were to maybe invest in real estate here in the future, you know, it's more affordable and there's a lot more room for growth, because trying to buy a place in the UK or many places in America right now, everything's just so expensive. It's like, is it really worth it? I don't really want to slave away just so I can afford my mortgage when I can live somewhere else, live a nicer way of life, and then get into the housing market when the time is right for me. I also notice in a developing nation that people are very optimistic, hardworking, they're trying to push their country forward, and I really like being in energy like that. I think right now the US is really just trying to do damage control. I'm very grateful I was born in the US, but I don't like the direction that the culture is heading, and I don't like the general vibe and sentiment of the country because it does feel like it's kind of on a decline now. Why I picked Krakow specifically was because it was the second city. I have this thing where every time I go to a country, unless it's a smaller capital city, like many of the Eastern European capital cities, which have a population of less than 2 million, I don't like being in really big cities. I always choose the second most popular city because you have a smaller population. They still retain a lot of the cultural aspects, but there's still a lot of expats or international people there because it's still like a big city. So for example, when I went to Vietnam, I hated Saigon, but I loved Da Nang. Da Nang, population 1.3 million. When I went to Thailand, I'm not a big fan of Bangkok, but I loved Chiang Mai, population 1.3 million. And here in Poland, I think Warsaw has a population of 1.7 million, but Krakow has a population of 700,000. And to me, 500,000 to 1 million is like the perfect amount because I love that community, family, ma and pa feel of a city. Krakow still could use a lot more Asian restaurants, but for the most part, this is the exact kind of vibe that I'm looking for. The people here are very nice, they're very welcoming. You can definitely feel that there's like this aura of just like calmness and chillness, which I really like. The smaller cities are always safer for a lot of the things that I like to do in a city, like walking around, being able to be out until whatever time and take the public transportation on the way home. I just generally prefer smaller cities. Also, in Poland, the public transportation is quite good. I've been quite impressed with the public transportation in Krakow. I can get anywhere with a Bolt or an Uber, which isn't that expensive. There's like a tram station 5-minute walk from my place, so I can go to the city center if I need to. All of the big shopping centers all around the city, I can go by bus or I can just take an Uber to get there. And there are Bolt or Tier scooters everywhere. So there's a lot of convenient means of transportation. Unfortunately, I came during a bad time in winter, so the weather has been quite rough. Once spring and summer starts, I hear so many good things about Krakow, about the beauty of the city, the views, all that stuff. And I personally love being in a city where there's a lot of nature. Growing up in LA, it's a concrete jungle. There's just buildings everywhere and I never really got that nature feel. But then when I went to Colombia and I lived in Manizales, that was my favorite part about that city. How close I was to the mountains, to trees, to nature, to great tap water. That to me is just a priceless experience. So the most important reason why I stay here in Poland is the visa situation. As a US citizen, you get a special benefit for staying in Poland and you're allowed to stay here for an extended period of time. I'm not going to talk about it in the video. If you guys want to reach out to me through Instagram or send me an email, I can tell you guys how to do it. But my future plan so far is that I think I'm going to stay here in Poland for about a year. Afterwards, I'm going to work to get my Filipino citizenship because my parents are Filipino. And then I'm going to try to find a way to go to Spain. Philippines is a Spanish colony. I can get the Spanish citizenship within 2 years, and that way I'll be able to stay in Europe. So shout out to one of my subscribers who gave me that idea. And after thinking about it, I think that's the best move forward for me. So what kind of videos do you guys want to see? Do you guys want me to do travel vlogs going to other European countries? Do you guys want me to just make a bunch of content about Poland? You guys can watch another video here. Let me know what kind of videos you guys want to see down below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace out.